Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, you shouldn't.
I mean, you seem pretty
Oh.
hostile. I'm not gonna. I need to tell you. We need to have words.
Oh.
Because you went all flim school, like
Flim school?
yeah.
That's what you call it when it's
Yeah, on Facebook today. You did. You went.
I was just pointing.
snarked.
I was pointing something out.
You didn't. It was your tone. You had the tones. You like strapped on the tones.
I don't. Let me tell you something. First of all.
Oh yeah, tell me.
I never,
just say this about that.
I never strap on the tone. It's it actually is when I unstrap the tone.
Andy, I think we should tell the people where we're from.
Okay.
I'm Pete Wright. That's Andy Nelson, and this is the Next Reel podcast. We're so glad that you all have joined us for this week. We are continuing our journey around the world tonight in our foreign film series. You can find us at thenextreel.com. You can catch up with the blog there, the blog whisperings of Steve Sarmento. Big news on the blog this week. Went live with our 2014 watch list. So you can catch up with all the movies that we're going to be talking about in 2014. And there are some notes on the movies that we haven't picked yet that you are going to pick in our Listener's Choice series and that we're going to surprise each other with in our Guilty Pleasure series. And there you go. So
Absolutely.
That's where you can find us there. Conversation happens at Google Plus, at google.com/plus The Next Reel Podcast, or facebook.com/The Next Reel. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Pete Wright. Andy is at, what are you again?
At Soda Creek Film.
There you go. And you can also follow the show at The Next Reel, but, that's really just announcing stuff.
Well, but that's a good way to stay in touch with our Instagram contest.
Yes, it is. The Instagram Guess the Movie Pony Prize. Tell the people what they may win, Andy. Well, we don't know that
they'll win the pony prize. All sorts of
It may be a pony.
It may be an actual pony.
How'd we do this week? Did you stump them?
It went for a little while. I switched it up a little bit. I picked, the movie was The Blues Brothers, but I only showed images from the opening 5 minutes of Jake getting released from jail. So it looked, the very first images of the film are, just like the factories of Detroit. It's just very awful looking. And then just like these shots of prison and everything. And so it really threw people. I had guesses like The Deer Hunter or The Longest Yard, things that, it kind of could fit.
Wow, but Longest Yard's good. That's good.
It was there were some good guesses, even Flashdance, because it does have that kind of.
But see, the problem was the December 10th
vibe.
One. December 10th has the shades.
Well, that's I knew, and I was torn. I'm like, should I go with the shades already, or should I do a different picture? And I decided I was going to do the shades. And once N. Exposito saw those shades, he knew exactly what it was. And so congratulations to N. Exposito for winning this week's Guess the Movie Challenge on Instagram.
I wonder if he didn't get that one, if he would have gotten the one from the next day.
I was waiting to use that Frank Oz one.
Man.
Holding up the used prophylactic.
Excellent. That was good. Are you ready for next week?
I am.
Starting tomorrow?
I have a feeling it may be an easy one, but I want to throw it out there anyway.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
So that's it. Follow us on Instagram or on Twitter to catch up with the pictures, but you got to comment on Instagram and see if you can guess the movie to win the pony.
Win the next real pony.
At no point will a pony be as a prize for the Next Reel contest. Next Reel does not endorse winning ponies for any contest. Pony is a euphemism for something else grand.
Asterisk.
So you were gonna. What else did you see this week? Anything else good? Anything else you want to malign?
I saw Nebraska, which I liked quite a bit.
Yeah.
I saw 12 Years a Slave, which made me cry quite a bit.
Let me just ask you, when you walked out, did you feel like somebody has been kicking me about the head and neck really hard? I feel beaten up after I watched that movie.
It did feel that way a little bit.
It
was a rough one.
Yeah. Rough is right, son.
Yes, indeed.
And then what was the other one? I went and saw another one. I can't remember.
Okay.
Lots of good. It's it's the season. It's impossible to keep up. It really is.
This was a TV week for me.
Oh yeah.
I had so many movies that I got, and I watched a bunch of TV. And speaking of TV series that borrow heavily from science fiction, this is going to send you right over the. I don't even know if I want to say it out loud.
Uh-oh.
Almost Human. What is that? What laugh was that? That I don't even think I've ever heard that laugh.
That was what is that one again? That was the one.
Oh, stop.
Oh, okay. That's that show. That was me laughing like I'm mocking it, but I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not sure.
Here's the reason I bring it up is, of course, because it stars Carl Urban and Michael Ealy. And Carl Urban, of course, is your favorite.
He's Dredd.
He's Dredd. That's right. And Michael Ealy, we've talked about recently because he's in the reboot of About Last Night. Las Vegas, The Signal. And in the Fast and the Furious series too. Yep, yeah, he wasn't a very big part of that, but I discovered him in. He played the character Darwin Al Said in Sleeper Cell for 2 seasons in 2006, and he was incredible in that show. And so I've been a big fan of his. And so he's in this when he plays this android in this Almost Human, which borrows from everything. And so, you kind of have to watch it with a little bit of grain, if you want to enjoy it. But it's sort of fun to watch Carl Urban. And I don't think this show's going to be around very long. It's very expensive, and I think people are a little bit cynical about it. So I'm just enjoying it while it's there. And I watched 3-4 episodes, and yeah.
And you said that's all I need.
Carl Urban, just waiting for the next Bones.
I'd like to also say he's waiting for the next Dredd. I really like
He's waiting for the next Dredd.
Come on.
Aren't we all?
I know you're not. Why I oughta.
Let me tell you, it was a big cinema news week. Did you catch all the news? All right. First of all, Peter Jackson says he's going to do another Tintin. He's going to direct, and I think swap roles with Steven Spielberg, who's going to produce.
Wow.
Luke Evans says he's.
So no, wait. Here's a question though.
I don't have any details.
Oh.
Go ahead. Let's just speculate wildly.
No.
All right. Luke Evans is taking over the lead in The Crow reboot. Are you excited about The Crow? Did you like The Crow the first time around?
Not at all.
Brandon Lee? Not at all.
Hated
it. Likewise. Planet of the Apes. Oh my goodness! The first 4 posters have been released. The worldwide trailer hits when? Next week?
I think so. Mm-hmm. And those posters scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, they were not civil.
I don't want those posters hanging up anywhere.
I was going to frame them in glass and bolt them to your ceiling right above your bed.
Of course you were.
Okay, so there's another. They've cast John Connor. I can't remember the guy's name in Terminator Genesis because we need another one of those.
I saw that. Yeah, and the person I'm trying to remember who it was because it surprised me. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yep. Interstellar has gotten its first promotional material. The Facebook page is up and it has a logo. Christopher Nolan's new science fiction thing, and Juan Antonio Bayona has been confirmed as the director of World War Z sequel. Brad Pitt confirmed. They're starting to write it. Just now, starting to write it.
This, like right now, as we're talking.
Mm-hmm. Right now.
That's amazing.
He just called me. He just called me and he said, "Don't interrupt at all and let me know. Just text me. Don't call me when you're done with the show." Brad said.
Wow.
But this is the one that I don't know what to feel about this. And this one tests my test the testosterone meter, my testosterone meter, which was at its fullest when I was 14, and would go to the movies. I would just be 14 to 18, right, jazzed over the movies, right. Sony's announced Bad Boys 3, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, David Guggenheim to write. Where do you stand?
God, the second one is so horrible.
Yeah. No, it went so far south.
The first one, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. Rewatching it, I felt it was really dated.
Martin.
Yeah, it's just a dated movie.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that.
I don't know. I kind of do, just because, of nostalgia, but I don't know if it's gonna.
Because Will Smith is trying to figure out what he's done to his career, and so he's grasping. What did I do that made money that I can make a sequel to and make more money again? And how can I cast my son in it?
Does anybody remember when I did things like 7 pounds? No, Will.
Oh my! But we love Will. We're just being snarky.
We do.
We have our snarky strap on.
Let's talk trailers, Andrew.
I want to go first.
I want you to. You should.
Because you kind of pushed me a little bit this week.
The hammer came down, son.
Boy, it sure did. You were
fast,
trying to steal all the thunder as quick as you could this week. Fast. And I admit, you put me in scramble mode. I was really panicked and frantic trying to find a trailer that could live up to the trailer that you're going to discuss in just a minute. And I think I managed to find one. It took me like 2 or 3 trailers to finally hit it. But once I did, I mean, it's totally nowhere near yours as far as quality or genre or scope of what it's trying to do or anything. But man, I have watched it like 5 times now, and I laughed so hard every time. The trailer I'm talking about is the new Jason Bateman film that he directed called Bad Words. It's a red band trailer. It's horribly filthy. It's definitely a not so safe for work sort of trailer. But wow, I mean, he really takes you places that you never expected him to go.
It's not just him; it's the child.
Oh man, I know that
filthy child. That was brilliant. It really, I think it taught me a lot about Jason Bateman. Really, that he wrote and directed this, and this is what came out of his face and his head.
He directed it.
Oh, he didn't write it.
He didn't write it. It was Andrew Dodge who wrote it.
All right. Well, still,
but it's
he picks it to direct. And I feel like that tells us a lot about this guy. And he just I don't know how many places up on the list did he jump in your best friends that we haven't met yet list.
I think he shot up there quite a bit.
Easy 5 points.
Oh, Jason. Yeah, this makes up for Identity Thief.
Oh man,
everything else you've been doing. I mean, this just looks so. Just really, really edgy and I
don't even want to see.
Right
this is the problem with that trailer is I don't want to see the movie because I don't want to ruin it. I just want it like this.
I'm afraid it's not going to live up to the trailer.
Wow.
So that's
when does it come out? When does it hit?
There's no release dates yet. I mean, the trailer's out there, but right now it had premiered at Toronto earlier this year. But, the trailer's out there, but there's no release date on the trailer, and IMDb doesn't have any release dates yet. So coming soon, I guess, is the best I can give you right now.
Nice.
But definitely a fun watch. Don't watch it at work. Don't watch it around the kids, but definitely check it out.
If you're a speller, this is a film for you. So that's yours. Mine is, I got dibs on the Wachowskis.
I know.
The Wachowskis are heading back to sci-fi. Andy and Lena Wachowski are doing, or have released the first trailer for Jupiter Ascending in a world where humans are near the bottom of the evolutionary ladder. A young, destitute human woman, Mila, is targeted for assassination by the Queen of the Universe because her very existence threatens to end the Queen's reign.
That's heavy.
And Mila Kunis, the new Mila, and Channing Tatum, who is apparently part wolf, and Sean Bean, and gosh,
who's probably going to get killed off. He'll probably be revealed as
he's
as a traitor and be killed off
in
in the first 30 minutes. Oh, poor
Terry Gilliam is in this. This is it. I think there are a lot of people who are bullish on this film because it's the Wachowskis back into sci-fi. Those who loved The Matrix are excited to get to see a little bit more hardcore. I got to tell you, the visuals in the trailer they look, quite good.
Yeah.
For anybody who liked the future sequences of Cloud Atlas, this is a whole movie of that.
It looks slick.
It looks pretty slick. It comes out July 18th, 2014. It's on the summer slate.
Very
so
excited.
Get ready for that. That's it.
And Channing, I think he makes a lot of good decisions. I think, I wasn't so sure about him around the G.I. Joe days, but I think that he's really been proving himself. I think he's one of my favorites out there right now. So very excited to see this one.
Wow. I sort of can't believe you said that out loud.
What? He's great.
It's fine. It just seems like a guilty pleasure.
Maybe it is a little bit. 21 Jump Street totally came out of nowhere, and it was on my top 10 list for last year. I loved it so much. I admit it.
Wow, that's good.
Did you know he's playing Superman in the Lego movie?
I did know that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
It'll probably be the only movie with Superman in it that I really like.
All right. Speaking of theatrical guilty pleasures, is that our theatrical the coming soon top 10 list? Tell me that's not the one you're looking forward to most.
What's that?
The Lego movie.
Oh, I know.
A little bit.
Totally. I cannot wait for that. It's directed by Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs guys. I am so excited. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was my favorite animated film of that year. Yes, more than Up.
What?
Which is a great movie, but Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is so good. I laugh myself silly every time I watch that movie. I don't care what people say, and I don't care if people want to kick me in the shins for not liking Up as much as that, but it is the funniest thing that I've seen in ages, so I cannot wait for the Lego movie.
I'm going to kick you in the shins. It's going to probably be a couple of years. Next time I see you, I'm just going to kick you in the shins. And I want you to refer to this show, episode 112.
I'm going to be thinking about that until then.
Because I'm not going to say anything.
Just walk up and kick me in the shins.
It's going to be pretty hard, too. Andy, I want to talk about Yee.
All right. I'm excited. I'm excited, but I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
Because this is how I feel the conversation is going to go. I'm gonna go, oh my God, it's great. I love it. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have this whole thing. And then you go, yeah, I liked it too. But God, it was long and boring.
Okay.
I hope that's not where it's going to go.
No, you don't have to worry about that because you're not quite right.
I keep picturing Taxi Driver.
I'm going to go ahead and I should probably go first, right?
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to keep you in suspense any longer than I have to.
Okay, go first then.
I was bored silly in this movie. I was bored silly. It was awful. I could have done it in 20 minutes. Like, I watched the trailer and I got exactly the same amount out of it. Now, that's not to say that there isn't good stuff going on that I found myself sort of touched by as I went back and watched sequences again. But the overall viewing experience, I was plumb baffled at how this thing won so many awards. It was amazing. Like, how is this so popular that the people love this movie? This is like real life. So if you take a camera and you put a camera on real life and you want to capture real life, and you capture the most banal, uninteresting, insipid parts of real life and then cut it all together and make a movie out of it. I could not get into it. I just couldn't. It was so hard. I wanted to, Andy. I did. And I thought about this the whole time. How am I going to come clean? I could just lie. I could just lie to him and try to make him feel good, but I can't. Our friendship is worth too much. This was a terrible viewing experience, and I can't wait. I really can't wait to hear convince me otherwise, because it was hard watching.
I don't know if I can convince you. I don't know if I can convince you. It's a challenging watch. I mean, it's nearly 3 hours. It's a few minutes shy of 3 hours. It's a long movie, and it's a very deliberately slow film. The way that it's paced, the way that it's shot, it's very calm. It's very mannered. It's very it's crafted with a lot of long shots, with a lot of long takes. It is designed to be kind of observant of this family's life over the course of a year, starting with a wedding of one of the family members, ending with the death of another family member. And in the middle of all of that, we have the birth of a new family member. And so, I mean, this is really designed to be an exploration of life in the world of this family in Taipei over the course of this year. And, I don't know. This was a film that I saw. This came out in 2000, and I saw it probably, I'm guessing, around like 2004, 2005. It's just one of those films that I'd heard about, I rented, and I instantly fell in love with it. And I know the pacing is slow, but it's all of the little moments that draw me in when I watch it. And watching it again, I mean, I'll admit, my wife fell asleep and went to bed. She gave up on it. My mom, who's in town, she also kind of just like, I think I'm gonna finish this right now, sort of thing. It's one of those films that it takes work to finish. But okay, now, so before we go too far, because I mean, there's a lot of directions this can take, but I wrote a list of all the things that this film makes me think about, because I think there's so many things going on in this film, and I love thinking about all these things as I watch this film. And so I'm just going to rattle off this list.
Okay, well, how would you like me to participate at all? Do you just want to get your list out there, or do you want me to?
I'm going to get it out there.
Get it out there. Okay.
Because I want to at least have it out there, and then we can just kind of talk about whatever it is we want to talk about. But I want to have the list out there so if it triggers something, then we can talk about it.
Okay, that's good.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's good.
These are the things I think about when I watch this amazing film. Okay, ready?
I hope I can stay awake during your list.
I hope you can too, because it's going to take me 3 hours to read it.
Scene 1, interior.
Right, that's right. The wedding. The simplicity of everyday life. The complexity of everyday life. Teaching and learning, cults and religions, superstition, luck and beliefs, friendship, love, marriage, unrequited love, new love, old love, birth, death, infidelity, murder, a new look at things, a fear of taking risks, a fear of being responsible, confidence, authority, conformity, punishment, financial responsibility, women versus men, the origins of life, water, clouds, weather, nature, reflections, urban life, individuality, solitude, solidarity, loneliness, lonesomeness, intimacy, distance, stillness, maturity, curiosity, business ethics, principles, tradition, technological advances, reliving the past, staying in the present, letting things go, the meaning of things that happen to us, fantastic moments that seem real to us, losing perspective, gaining insight. Phew. There you go. That's my list.
I think that your list defines the substantial problem that I have with this film.
Which is it's exploring too much.
Yeah. This was Edward Yang in end-of-life therapy, right? That was the feeling I got, that he jammed 3 generations of this family to work out all of their issues in business, in personal life, in marriage, which they don't really do. They don't really figure those things out. And bullying for the little kid, and he gets to teach himself how to swim because he's got this. He is the magical part of this film. And the daughter who is an admirable job of dealing with this really crazy love triangle, all of I think all of the different sort of intertwined kind of storylines come to a head in the last 40 minutes of the film, and that's when it starts to get interesting. The problem is, for most films I see that where I have this sensation that the oh my gosh is really it's had this sort of slow burn all the way up to the end, and now I feel like the reward it's paying off, and now I understand all the stuff that came before it. That wasn't a feeling I got with this film, and I keep coming back because I hate, I really struggle, and we've talked about this. I really struggle with just coming on the show and like taking other people's creative work and just kind of ripping it apart. When what did I do on this film? Nothing. Edward Yang has a career of making films, and this is an award-winning film, and that's all well and good. But I got to come back to Ebert. The experience is, did I enjoy the experience of watching this film? And I felt like it was a sentence. Like I felt in pain. I did not feel rewarded at the end when I started seeing the payoff. I felt like I just saw the most boring parts of these people's lives when leading up to the interesting part that I feel like I should have been, rewarded with that. So I really struggled with it. I really did.
This is another Taxi Driver.
Yeah. No, it felt like that, and it was tough.
Well, it's interesting because and maybe that's why I like it. The things that you don't like about it maybe are the things that I do like about it, is the fact that I get to the end of this film and I see, NJ, who's our protagonist. He's kind of, I guess, the principal protagonist of the film. He's the father in this family, played by Wu Ninjen, who is also a filmmaker from Taiwan. He's kind of gone through this situation over the course of the film where a couple situations. One where he has ended up re-meeting this long lost first love of his, and kind of ended up in this situation where he's contemplating the idea of rekindling that relationship, and if there is something there, if it was a mistake that he made and all that, while at the same time dealing with this business proposition about going with somebody who may be a little more expensive, but knows the business, or going with a ripoff just to make money. And so he's kind of torn in this situation as to what to do. He ends up just kind of, coming back to his wife, and he has this moment where he's just like, even if I had done things differently, I probably would have ended up in the same place. And looking at that and the way that life moves, and I think that's what maybe that's what I like about it, is that it feels like this is just life, and this is this family living their life, and all these little details and how separated they are, and we see all these details in their own individual lives and how they all kind of come together, and how it's just kind of a reflection of the way that life moves, and all of these little details make us who we are, even if it doesn't mean that we're going to be in a totally different stream. If something had changed, we probably would be in the exact same stream. And I guess that's what I like about it, is I feel like I'm getting a lot out of it, because I feel like there is some growth and some people learning about their own lives, even if nothing is changing in their lives.
Yeah. And even The Truman Show was edited. Do you know what I mean? Like, I get that watching life thing. I get that experience of watching life, and I feel like I suffer as a result of watching, the parts of life that I don't want to belabor that part, because there really are pieces in here that I like. And it, to me, it all starts with the youngest generation, right? With
Yang Yang.
Yang Yang, played by Jonathan Chang. This kid is just magical. The way he moves on screen, he's just magical. He's just a beautiful little spirit, and I don't know if it's because he, he just he just owns his little space, and his space is one of bullying. He's bullied by other kids. His teacher bullies him. He's in a really horrible kind of experience, and yet as soon as he gets out of class, he is an explorer, and I love that piece of him. And so those long shots, I feel, are well deserved. When we watch him, I also feel like he's the subject of some of Edward Yang's dirty filmmaking tricks. mean, dirty, kick in the stomach, dirty filmmaking tricks. That when he goes to the pool wanting to swim, and he takes off his shoes, and he takes off his little backpack, and then he jumps in dressed into the pool, and then we hear him gagging and gurgling, and then it cuts away to something else. That's a dirty, mean trick.
Because we don't actually see him surface, and it seems to hold for a long time.
I was viscerally mad at Edward Yang, and by extension at you, during that sequence. And when he comes back in, slopping his little wet feet, carrying his shoes back into his little apartment, because apparently he has the run of Taipei at 7 years old, or however old he is, it was both, it was a relief and a I hate you, Edward Yang moment. That happens again and again. We see NJ, he's depressed, he can't find his teacup, and the next sequence we see him, he's on the floor spread out. It happens again with the brother-in-law, who, you know, we think Adi, right?
He's dead.
We think he's dead. Like, they keep doing this, and I don't know. This is a part that I kept coming back to. I feel like I don't watch enough Chinese drama. I feel like I may be disconnected culturally from what to expect in Chinese drama, and how Chinese actors are directed to express their depression. Right, and in this case, they do so in such a way to make you think that they're dead, and I felt like beaten up as a result of it. It was just too much. And then, you know, at the end, you know, it ends in a funeral, and it's the funeral of the one person that we really knew was going to die all along. And so It ended up being not a surprise or a shock at all when the mother, who's been in a coma the entire film.
The grandmother,
NJ's mother.
No, it's his wife's mother, Min Min's mother.
Right. Okay. Right. It's her mother ends up dead. That's not a shock. That's you know, to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a real problem with how they treated me. I feel like they didn't respect me very much in how they treated depression and death. And by the end, I was just exhausted by it. You know, it was like, oh, come on, man. Give me more of Issei. What's his name? Issei, the Japanese guy.
Issei Ogata.
Issei Ogata. Yeah, Mr. Oda. I could have watched that guy do magic tricks all night long.
Yeah, he's definitely is, I think, one of the most enjoyable parts of the film. His conversations that he has with NJ. I'm riveted to the screen because there's something about him that reeks just the most amazing honesty, and his presence is just, you know, nothing but humility. It's so great to watch him and their conversations, which are all in English because he's from Japan, NJ is from Taiwan, and so the English is their common language. So all of their scenes are in English together. There's something that I don't know, always transports me when I'm watching their scenes, because I find them just like these amazing, beautiful philosophical moments.
Yeah, those are highlight moments for me, to be sure. Is, you know, watching. I hear he is. Don't feel like I've ever seen him in anything else. I understand is he a comedian in Japan?
Yeah, he's a comedian, right?
I kept thinking, if this were remade, Steve Martin in the United States, Steve Martin would play him. So I loved those moments. Okay, what you talk more, because I feel like I could keep doing this.
It's going to be one of those conversations where, you know, I espouse my love for it and you espouse all the things that you don't love about it, and it's going to be one of those nights. But that's okay. There's the people in this film I get so drawn to every time I watch it. I mean, the way that it's shot, the way that we meet these people, I really enjoy being a part of this family. And it's, you know, there definitely are challenges. Yang's story, I think, is just so pleasurable to watch, because he is in this place where he's learning, and yes, he's bullied, but at the same time, I don't think I mean, obviously it affects him, but to me, it's just is in that childish place where it doesn't seem like it affects him so much that he's not going to stop exploring. He is like Mr. Curiosity, and just his fascination with that older girl at school. Once he kind of latches on to her at that, which is I think just a fantastic moment when he's running from the teacher after he drops a water balloon on the teacher's head, and he runs into kind of the auditorium to hide out, and the school is watching this weather film about storms and everything and nature and clouds, and in walks this older girl that he's kind of been bothers him periodically and bullies him a little bit, but her skirt gets stuck and he ends up seeing her underwear, and it's like all of a sudden something is awakened in him and he's drawn to her, and he's kind of watches her swim, which is what leads him to try swimming, and he's kind of exploring his growth, and then all of that leading to him trying to figure out this whole idea of how there's no way to know all of the truth of things because we can only ever see half truths because we can only see one direction. And I feel that's another interesting aspect of all of the things happening in this film, and how we're only really getting these half truths, and maybe us as the audience and Edward Yang as the filmmaker are trying to explore the full truths, but these characters are stuck in the world of half truths, and seeing how they look at things. I don't know. I really enjoy seeing everybody kind of struggling with their own perspective, and it's kind of like there's that individual perspective of what something is. I mean, looking at NJ and this long lost love of his, and how she never understood why he never showed up. And he really doesn't seem like he really understood it. And then they have this conversation toward the end about how she really was the love of his life and still is and probably will always be, even though they don't get together. And the way that everybody's looking at perspectives and perspectives are shifting. I love when Min Min, the mother, who kind of has this breakdown because her mother, the grandmother, is in this coma, and she's kind of one of these people who's latched onto this cult that she kind of believes the preachings of this cult, and she's so torn up by not just her mother being in a coma, but the fact that because of that, and because she has to basically go in every day and talk to her mother to just kind of, supposedly when you talk to somebody in a coma, it helps them because they can still hear you. She realizes that she doesn't have anything to talk about. She's kind of, as she says, she lives a blank. She's a boring person. There's nothing in her life. So she goes to this cult because she thinks they have all the answers. And then when she comes back at the end of the film, she's like, I realized talking to these people, they don't have any of the answers. It's the exact same thing there than it is here. There's nothing different about that. So it's the way that the perspectives shift and the way that these people start seeing different aspects of things. And I think that is all exemplified so wonderfully in Yang Yang and his this photography experiment that he latches onto of taking the picture of the backs of people's heads, because it's a side of themselves they never get to see. It's a truth that's in those people's lives that they just don't know. And I just feel like that message is so strong, and I love that about Yang Yang. And that's just some little curiosity that he latches onto that becomes this philosophical look at all of these characters in this film.
Well, and I do, I appreciate the intention. I really do. That with NJ we get very much the story of his exploration of what was, right? Of oh my goodness, this is the lost love, and I hate my job today, and this exploration of this time traveling with her, I have an opportunity to really think about what used to be and the choices I made and those sorts of things. I love the intention of that. And with it's Min Min, or is it Ting?
Min Min's his wife. Ting Ting.
Ting Ting. Her story is very much about what is, right? The passion of the teen love triangle, and the fact that she too is very much alone, going through this experience with, and I'm interested in you talking about the love triangle in particular, and the way that resolves with Fatty and.
Mm-hmm.
But she's very much caught in the what is, and I think teen years are very much what is. It's very,
Right.
self-absorbed, and Yang Yang is very much what will be, and through it's through Yang Yang and his his tiny voice that we see really the wisdom of the film, and I think it's captured, in his speech at the grandmother's funeral.
Right.
I want to tell him that I feel old too. The last line of the film I think is it's really that sort of soul crushing kind of attachment to youth that is just really beautiful. So I see the system of the drama here. I really do.
Right.
But yeah. So and I love it. But talk to me a little bit about
The love triangle.
The love triangle. Yeah. What's your sense of, because I think there are two pieces, and you brought it up already. Looking at Yang Yang, his exploration of kind of his early exploration of kind of boy-girl relationship sexuality, and then we have what's going on with the love triangle in the middle, that is a more explicit exploration of sexuality and particularly the teacher-student relationship.
Yeah, there's something very interesting going on in Ting Ting's story. She befriends her neighbor, Lily. It's interesting, the title of the film is Yi Yi. It's very much about, I guess, Yi in Chinese or in Mandarin means one. And so Yi Yi is literally like one, which is like individuality, I believe, when you have the two of them together
and
individually.
You almost don't get it until you see the way the title card plays, right? Because it writes it, a single line is one, and another line gets drawn below it, and that's two. And so that's sort of how it gets transliterated to a one and a two.
Which Yang also attributes to kind of just the way, I mean, he gave it purposefully both the Chinese and English titles on the film, and the English title, a one and a two, he attributes to just jazz and how every time before they start, it's always like a one and a two, and they get going, and he says, life should be like a jazzy tune. Now, I'm sure that you're going to say there's not a whole lot of jazzy tune in this film.
There's no jazz in this one.
It's definitely more of a one and a two, and then a nice slow classical piece begins. But yeah, I mean, but I think Ting Ting, what I was saying is a lot of the names represent kind of that individuality, and they reflect the title. But Ting Ting definitely does. She's traumatized by what's happened with her grandmother because she feels responsible since whatever a particular situation that had happened in their life, and so she walks through the film very in a very heavy sort of way, and so she's kind of exploring a lot of pain and things in her life, and she ends up befriending her neighbor Lily, who is this it's her age. She's a kind of a child prodigy who plays the cello, and but is also interestingly kind of like the bad girl who her mother is always like with another guy, one of which happens to also be Lily's teacher, and apparently Lily and the teacher seemed to have been having some sort of relationship, and so there's a lot of it's a very tense next door neighborhood or neighbor that they have going on there, because Lily is also seeing this other guy, Fatty, who it seems like one of those on again, off again, just heated, passionate teen romances that it's just like I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love you seems to be kind of the way that relationship goes. Ting Ting ends up being the go-between between them when they're not together, and she's the one who always has to deliver these messages from him back to Lily, and Lily seems to hate her, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere Fatty is attracted to Ting Ting, and it's like her first her first, I don't want to say love, but it's her first experience with those feelings. And
which end up being unrequited, right?
It ends up being unrequited because, Fatty just realizes that he can't go through with it because he still has feelings for Lily.
So we have Yang Yang, who just discovers sexuality. We have Ting Ting, who could be having sex but doesn't, and we have NJ, who really should be having sex but can't. Because so, like, no one really wins in this arena.
Yes, if you're going to diminish it to that, then you're right.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing else going on in this movie, right?
Oh, come on. No, there's lots. There's so much going on in this movie. It's simple and complex, and I think that you're lashed onto the simplicity of it, and you don't want to look at anything else.
I'm a simple man.
I know. But I think what's interesting about this love triangle is that there's a lot more fire going on in that side of things, and clearly because of this thing with Lily and the fact that her mother is sleeping with her, I think it's her cello teacher, and it seemed like she had been having a relationship. She basically, because Fatty is so infatuated with her, she essentially has Fatty kill her teacher. And that is probably one of the things that I'm always troubled with. I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I completely buy that. It always seems a little much for me. But at the same time, I think what I like about it is this is a story that's looking at this family, the Jen family, and we're seeing everything from their perspective. And so all of the stuff that plays out, we really see from Ting Ting's perspective when the police bring her in to talk about what she knows about this guy, Fatty, and this whole relationship and everything that's going on. And I think what I like about it is, okay, maybe the murder is a little extreme in the story, but at the same time, I think what I appreciate about it is the fact that it's looking at her, forcing her to look at this relationship in a different way. And again, it's this whole shifting of perspectives and looking at the truths in a way that you weren't looking at before. And so from that perspective, I do end up appreciating the way that scene plays out. Even if I don't completely, I feel like that might be the scene for me that feels a little out of place, the whole murder.
Yeah, it felt wildly out of place to me, when it sort of jarred me awake. But not only just the fact that it was there structurally, but the way it was portrayed, the sort of the detail of the cinematography around it. I found there was some nuance there that I really appreciated. The way, and I like the way you put it, from the Jen perspective, we know that something is going on, but the camera is focused on, Yang Yang or Ting Ting.
Right.
And what we see are, is Yang Yang looking out a window and the red flashing police lights outside, but we never see what they're doing until the next day when they experience the firsthand kind of scene of the crime pieces of it, where we get to see it on TV, we get to see the blood streak, hands, and the real highlight for me is the animated reenactment on the newscast.
And what's interesting about that is it's not actually an animated reenactment on the newscast, although it does feel like that's what's actually happening in the film.
But that's how they do. I mean, that's a very popular thing over there.
Yeah, Edward Yang, he has this method which I really like of overlaying two different stories, kind of like, so we're getting a sense of two different things happening at the same time. I think it's amazingly powerful when he does it, when NJ is exploring with Sherry, this long-lost love of his, while they're down in Japan talking to Ota. We have this conversation going on between the two of them in audio over images of Ting Ting and Fatty as they are kind of initiating their romantic relationship. And the way that he kind of plays with the visual and the audio, and he's mixing those, I find really
That was-
interesting.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful sequence. So when he says, remember when we were standing at the railroad crossing and we first held hands as Ting
Ting
is
is experiencing.
first holding hands with her. Yeah, that was a very touching sequence.
And just as a side note, I have to, because I want to talk about the cinematography in this film a little bit, but I just want to say I think that is just such an amazing long shot that he uses right there of those two, of Ting Ting and Fatty, of them standing in. It's kind of like on this kind of sidewalk under an underpass. We see kind of cars going by on these roads around them, but the way that the traffic lights play behind them as we see them kind of standing next to each other and then tentatively kind of get closer together, and then finally there's a little kiss, and then they kind of separate. The way that the traffic light goes from red to all of a sudden that it kind of turns green right as they kind of come together and kiss, and then and then it goes back to red. It just like those moments, God, that is just really fantastic filmmaking where finding the right shot, using the natural tempo of the traffic lights to help create that scene. And not only that, but also the audio from this other scene that's happening in a totally different country. I mean, I really, really loved that. But yeah, going back to the overlaying of things, that's an interesting one because it does feel a little out of place because, you cut to this strange video game murder, but basically is what's going on. And that's NJ's company, is they design these video games, and it happens earlier also. We see this video game as well.
Do you remember the Tiger Woods things out of the Taiwan newscasts?
I don't.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. It is very common over there right now. There are these animation houses, when they don't have footage, these animation houses use video game technology to recreate, the scene, right, for the news. And when Tiger Woods had his little, his problems,
right,
and he drove away and drove the car into the tree, and his wife came out chasing him with a golf club, that was all over the internet. The Taiwanese newscasts of the animated Tiger Woods running his animated car and his animated wife beating him up with a golf cart. It was exactly like is in this movie. I think that's what I was mentioning. That's a newscast trick in Asia. I'm going to find links because you need to experience Tiger Woods.
What also is interesting is the fact that in Taiwan or in Taipei, they let the news team go into the cell and film this person in jail. It's like in the newscast, you have footage of Fatty sitting in his cell. It's like you would never get away with that over here. And so it's interesting, seeing those cultural differences, what they can get away with in one country. It's surprising sometimes.
It is very surprising. And there's a whole series of from NMA News, and that's all they do is this is going to be people. It's animated news hits for stories they don't have all of, they don't have footage of.
We'll have to put that in the show notes.
It's totally going in the show notes. thenextreel.com/ it'll be on this show. It'll be on the front page. Just go to the front page. It'll be right there.
Right.
All right. Oh, this is good.
It's funny.
Okay. I'm going to stop watching it right now.
It's really interesting that they do that. So much for court sketches. Who wants court sketches where they
Not
get
anymore.
animated?
It's all video games. There's another one of 2.5 Men canceled. Charlie Sheen calls for justice. They actually animated the courtroom of Charlie Sheen in the courtroom calling for justice, and his hands are on fire. I love this stuff.
That is crazy.
All right.
So
that's it. What else you got? I got so.
Well, let's talk about
cinematography. I want to talk about cinematography.
Let's talk about cinematography. I think that I think cinematography, and in context of that also film construction, because I think they kind of really go hand in hand in this particular film. This came out. Edward Yang was one of the I don't want to say founding members, but he was one of the key players in the new wave cinema that came out of Taiwan in the 80s and 90s. Taiwan's film production has kind of had an interesting history. There's actually a really interesting short documentary on the Blu-ray of this film that kind of talks about the Taiwanese kind of this new wave of filmmakers that came out of the propaganda and everything else that it had been in the 50s, 60s, 70s. In the 80s, this new wave came in. They really wanted to try doing something else with it. Edward Yang was one of these people. And one of the things that they kind of latched onto was this whole idea of throwing away kind of modern filmmaking, maybe Western filmmaking, where you edit, where there's a lot of cuts between different people. And they really latched onto this idea of long shots and long takes. And I mean, it kind of goes back to, there are some other filmmakers like Ozu and, other filmmakers who do this, but they really liked this idea of longer shots, letting the actors act, and just, and Edward Yang talks about it where it's like, he likes the long shots in some of his scenes, not because, he's capturing so much more in the frame, because sometimes he uses these long shots in emotional scenes. And typically, like in a Hollywood film, you would be, when you're in an emotional scene, you would be right up there with close shots of your actors' faces, so you can see all of the emotions as they're acting, and you're cutting back and forth between them so the emotions build. And he feels that the best way that you can get these scenes across is by allowing long takes so the actors can really act. And you can really see that when Min Min has her breakdown, and it's just this long shot of her sitting there, and it's just an amazingly painful scene of watching her break down when she realizes that she doesn't have anything in her life. But I think what comes of using these longer shots, or what he says comes of it, is it actually allows more intimacy between the characters and between the actors, because they don't feel like there is this entire film crew standing around them. They actually can just really act like real people and have an intimate moment between them, and we're observing. And there was an interesting article that talked about that. I want to see if I can try to find it. How he's set so far away. Oh, here it is. The camera seems neither a detached third person nor a humanized first person, but somehow instead, without a trace of overt mysticism or any belittlement of Yang's essentially secular themes, a vaguely spiritual presence that both sees and feels. And maybe for me, this was by Andrew Chan, writing on reverseshot.com. Maybe for me, I felt that. I could see and feel all of the emotions in those shots. And maybe for you, in those wide shots where we had these emotional scenes, but we were like, a mile away from the actors as they had the moments, it kept you distanced from it, which created that boredom for you. I don't know. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, and I've been trying to reflect on that, because I wouldn't say that I was that this is an issue necessarily of feeling particularly distanced, and I like the idea, or I like the concept of giving us a chance to really, see the actors. And there are some sequences where I really resonate with that, where we get a chance. It's much more like a staged play. We've talked about this idea of doing the series of plays to film, stage to film.
Right.
And I often have this same sense. What I have a problem with is I don't think in the way the camera is set up. I find it. I don't find it. This takes me back to Casablanca. You detest me, don't you? Well, if I gave you any thought, I probably would. It's not like I feel one way or the other about it. I didn't feel necessarily moved by the way the camera was wielded in this film. I found myself particularly moved at the sort of lack of focus and restraint in the editing process. I feel like there's too much film in this film, and that as a result of having so much of this white space in the film to let the story shine, and all of I get that there's a movement behind this, and I get that the result for me was a film I couldn't connect with because it was I think too big in scope, and simply too long. It was not. It didn't achieve that sort of dance for me that I want to have with these sort of long sequences that are that you know. And I for some reason now I'm blanking on other movies that I really want to be able to have right on the tip of my tongue here that are big in scope that I actually really liked, but they'll come to me.
Well, and it's funny. It's interesting the perspective of people watching this film, because the things that don't work for you are the things that do work for me. And so I find that interesting, and I think this is an interesting example of a film that I think different people can end up sitting down and looking at it. And maybe it's a smaller group of people, but who could look at it and go, yes, I'm totally on board with this. Like I said, my mom and my wife weren't on board with it. You weren't on board with it. But I don't know. I felt like for me, a lot of those, the pacing of it, I didn't feel like it was like edited in a way where I can't believe that he kept so much in it. He should have cut that down and condensed it to 2 hours. That never crossed my mind because I was so involved with all of the nuances going on all the way through. And I really appreciated those long shots where it would just sit on somebody, or it would slowly pan, like very meticulous, long, slow pan over to something else that was happening. And the way that he did all of that gave me, maybe in my mind, it gave me time to kind of reflect and think about what it was that was going on and why things were happening the way they were and how things fit into the universe. And yeah, maybe I was going into this whole philosophical, the life, the universe, and everything sort of moment as I watched this movie, which is, maybe that's what I latch onto with it.
Well, and I can certainly resonate with that. When I think about, I think about that connection that I have with space. It takes me most immediately back to films like No Country for Old Men, right? It takes me back to the Coen brothers and the way they use space. And I find myself much more attracted to the way they use space in Fargo and No Country for Old Men and Miller's Crossing than the way the space was manipulated in Yi. I found this to be just simply uninteresting. And when we have sequences, not just, and it's not even the big spaces, because I enjoy seeing Taiwan and Taipei, and I enjoy the interaction with it to a point, but I'm thinking specifically to the scene of Fatty and Ting Ting in the, I guess, somebody's bedroom or hotel, or
it's one of those lovers hotels. Apparently those are very popular over there. It's not something that's really kind of made its way over here, but it's very popular. They have all these sorts of little one night stand sorts of hotels over there. So that's where they get a hotel room.
Well, they get a hotel room. There is this. It is. I get that the pacing of this sequence is to let the actors have a chance to really let the emotion come out of the scene. But oh my goodness, it is long. It's like 8 minutes of standing in this room. It's just there is.
I don't think it's quite that long, but maybe to you it felt that long.
It felt so much longer. It is. It is just really. It takes a long time to get through the Lovers Hotel. Long time.
See, I don't think that, and I that's what I find so interesting, because I don't know. I don't feel those things. Like, I am in that moment with Ting Ting, that nervous, kind of teenage sexual energy of, oh my God, this could be the first time, and he's kind of fumbling and trying to find the light switch, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and they're not sure, like, should we start undressing, like, what's going on? And then he kind of says that this isn't right and runs out of the room. I am so in that moment, and for me it feels like maybe it feels like it's 2 minutes, but that's because it's just like so it's like the tension in the room. And so I don't know, it's really interesting the way that people can come at it, looking at it different ways, and end up feeling totally differently about it.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely see that. And I felt it. Because I went into it wanting. I mean, you and I agree more than we disagree, and so I really felt like this was something. There was something wrong with me. that I reacted quite the way I did on this film. But it was Taxi Driver.
Yeah. Oh well. Another thing about the long shots that I like, that I want to talk about, because I think it's masterful filmmaking, the way that he uses reflections throughout the film. And speaking of perspectives and half-truths and what we see and what we don't see, the way that he uses and chooses to film through windows and get reflections of this urban setting that we're in, Taipei, this huge city that surrounds all these people. It makes the story, like we'll see entire scenes play out through a window, and we're watching the actors while at the same time we can see everything that's going on behind them, or we're looking out through a window and we see the reflection, but we see like trains going by, and it for me, the perspective of that, it makes it feel so intimate, but at the same time, it makes it feel like this could be anybody in the city, and this could be anybody in the world. This is one of those stories that's happening right now. And I love the way that he uses reflections. I love the way we have moments where, when Min Min is having her breakdown when she's at work, she's in this dark room and she's just kind of sobbing to herself. And we see in the background, through the reflection, we see some of her coworkers kind of coming in and just kind of, chatting casually and everything. But in Min Min's reflection, it's this dark city behind her, and we can see her silhouette. And right over where her chest is, we see this kind of red flashing light, almost like it's her life force, it's her heart beating. And then her friend comes in and comforts her, but the way that she's tied into the city and she's tied into life in a grander scale, I think is so powerful. Just like when we see Ting Ting and Fatty, and we see the traffic light timed with kind of them falling in love. And there's so many moments like that throughout the film where we see these reflections of things that are happening in multiple perspectives, because we're kind of this omniscient viewer that Edward Yang is giving us this extra sensory perception of what's happening in the world. And speaking of seeing the front truth and the back truth, I mean, the windows are a perfect example of, we can see through them, but we also have this reflection of what's going on behind. And we're getting all this extra perspective of what's going on in these scenes that these characters don't have. And I just found that so fascinating to watch. And I love the way he constructs so much of the film with reflections. And we're seeing just all these other elements in the story that really enhance it for me.
Yeah, I agree with you about the reflections. There are a lot of them. I mean, much of the sort of visual tale is told through reflections, and so it's I think it would be something that could get tiresome to some people, just because, again, of the length. But I think it really fits for me, most in alignment with the boy's story. I mean, and his efforts to walk us through this sort of philosophical journey of seeing the whole truth, and his innocence at approaching the whole truth. And when he takes that photograph to the brother, the brother-in-law, with the glasses,
right,
and he says, why do I need this? What are you doing? He says, well, you can't see that, so I'm helping you. And she hands him a picture of the back of his own head. That ends up, it sort of brings together the visual elements that we're talking about, sort of looking at both sides of every experience through buildings and reflected off of buildings, of what we see as a member of the city and a member of the story, with the practical elements of this kid trying to see his whole truth. And yeah. I think that's really a very special part of it. And again, it's what makes his storyline for me the most magical of them all.
Well, yeah, and clearly, I think for most people, his story is the one that you really latch onto, because there's just so much beauty in the nature of it. I mean, so much so that that's essentially, I mean, he's plastered on all of their artwork. I mean, Criterion, when they released the discs of it, it's the back of his head that we're looking at on the cover. And the movie posters that came out for the film, it's all him. I mean, he is the featured character in all of this stuff. That whole idea of him and the photos in the backs of the head, that's what I think sells the the philosophy of the story and sells the beauty of it to a lot of people.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So this is a tough one. What do you think? You got some? I'm sure you have some more things you want to talk about before we try to rank this thing.
Yeah, I know it'll be a challenge, I think. I don't know. I love the calm. I mean, I hesitate to say mature style of filmmaking. Just it's a very settled, still nature of filmmaking that Yang uses in the production of this film. It really, really works for me. I really love. I just love all of that. He's a very confident filmmaker. He's a filmmaker who, he will get an actor, like when Min Min does have her breakdown. He got that in one take. He never felt the need to go back and film it again. He did it once. It's just like, okay, you nailed it. I don't need to go back and get any more shots of that. I think there's a lot of confidence in a filmmaker doing that. I think he's a very intuitive filmmaker, but he also at the same time is a very a filmmaker who likes to plan. And so I don't know. I really like his filmmaking. I haven't seen any of his other films. He is a filmmaker who's, like I said, he came out of the this new wave of Taiwanese filmmaking, and he ended up making 7 films. And this was his last film before he ended up having a 7-year bout of cancer and ended up dying in 2007. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I haven't seen his other films. It sounds like this one is the film that more people identify with. I think his other films don't quite maybe resonate as much as this one. And so maybe for you probably shouldn't even bother watching the rest of his films if this one didn't resonate with you. But for me, this one, I mean, it's amazing how much I connect to this film. And I just love watching. I love these characters. I love being with them for 3 hours. I have such a great time. And Edward Yang was just, I mean, he's a filmmaker. He probably, oddly enough, the next film that he was going to do was an animated film with Jackie Chan. So it was probably something that you would have liked.
Yeah, right. Bring me a little bit more Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, there you go. It would have been a little crazy. I would love to see Edward Yang and his style of filmmaking with his real slow-paced, single-shot sorts of things with Jackie Chan and his like crazy.
I want to see Jackie Chan just sitting in front of a refrigerator for 3 hours, just sitting there.
Oh man. That's terrible. You're terrible. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's all I have. I really enjoy this film. It is a film that requires patience. And if you can get into this film, I think it can be an amazing experience. It is for me. I know it's not going to be for everyone. Although, oddly enough, this film was well received. It did play at the Cannes Film Festival in 2000, and Edward Yang won Best Director. It was nominated for the Palme d'Or. It did get just accolades all across the board. A lot of people put it on their Best Film of the Year list. And in the Sight and Sound magazine listed as one of the 10 greatest films of the past 25 years, and that was in 2002. So from 2002 back to, what would that be? 87, right? No, 77.
77.
Yeah. So from Star Wars till 2002, basically, they said this was one of the 10 greatest films of that year, of that period of time. The list includes Apocalypse Now, Raging Bull, Fanny and Alexander, Goodfellas, Blue Velvet, Do the Right Thing, Blade Runner, Chungking Express, Distant Voices, Still Lives, Once Upon a Time in America, and this film, Yi Yi. There was a tie, so there's actually 11 films in there. But it's, Sight and Sound considered it one of the greatest films. I mean, this is a film that a lot of people really latched onto. It's definitely not a mainstream film. This is not something that a lot of people are going to, sit down and put up with. It had a hard time I don't think any of his films, this was the first film of all 7 of his films that actually ended up having a theatrical release in the United States. He's just not a filmmaker who gets his stuff out there. And maybe because it is a little more trying, but I don't know. I think that it does require a patient viewing and somebody who's willing to invest their their time and energy with the story.
I mean,
That's all I have.
what are you saying? I mean, I feel like that was directed at me.
No, me. Snarky. I'm sorry. I forgot to take my snarky mask off.
You. I find, like I said in the beginning, I find a lot of this film. I find elements of this film really beautiful. That it resonates. Some of the stories really resonate with me. Where I find myself really struggling is in the fact that I think so much of filmmaking and the craft of filmmaking and telling a story is what you take out, and there is nothing in here for me that demonstrates that sense in the choices that he made on this film. It was just too dang long to maintain interest, and so I think why I think there are things that are beautiful in here. I think that would be really magnified if he had been able to tell less of a story and more of a film with a narrower intention. I think it would have been better. And I don't mean to say that because I know what you're going to say. You're thinking, oh, well, Pete's into simple movies, and Sarmento is going to say the same thing. And it's well, Pete's Popcorn Pete. That's not true. I mean, I find that that so much of the artistry of any creative endeavor is in the restraint and the decisions you force yourself to say no. And that's the artistry, and I don't feel like Yang said no enough in this film, and likely I would say the same thing to his other films that didn't get as much of a telling. I mean, this is editing. That's what editing is. Whether you're editing a manuscript, editing a novel, a play, it's being able to go back and say no. I don't need this. This doesn't make this a better film. And in Yi Yi, there is easily an hour and 20 minutes of no that should have been said, and it would have made it a film I could have sat through and really enjoyed.
And see, I disagree because I think this is
just give Andy the dailies. I want 17 hours of film straight, unedited, raw footage. I want every camera, every angle.
Oh yeah. Look me in.
All right, so people, what you're going to want to do, the next hour of the show is going to be Andy and I doing Flick Chart.
This will be a fun one. No, I'm going to. I mean, I acknowledge that this film is long, and it requires patience. So I will take that into account.
All right.
As I pick my choices.
Sight and sound, total bogus. All right, flickchart.com/thenextreel. Go there, and if you want to like us over there, flick us on the Flick Chart, and you can catch up with our top 100, the golden ticket, the golden list of our top 100 favorite films that we have ever done on the Next Reel. That's where you want to go to see that. Stack ranking.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Yi Yi.
Whatever.
Jeez.
Go ahead.
Wow.
I'm sorry. That was just, I've been waiting for that since like yesterday. Go ahead.
You sure have been. Yee or thank you for smoking.
Thank you for smoking.
I'll pick thank you for smoking too.
That was good though, right? That was a good
gag. Yeah.
Little Flick Chart gag.
Yes. It's the thing about it is that, I mean, as much as I love it, it is 3 hours, and you do have to be willing to sit down for 3 hours.
Any movie that makes you really question opportunity cost, I think you have to judge.
It's always going to come into play. I mean, I even do that when I look at Lord of the Rings or Godfather. Long film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yi Yi or Big Fish. This is a perfect one to fight over. I don't even know how we're going to fight over this, because I will always pick Yi over Big Fish, and you will always
pick Big Fish.
Yeah,
over that's right.
Yi.
That is exactly how that's going to happen. And so, what we're going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to rock paper scissors right now. That is the only way we're going to do this, because I think we've maxed out the scale on either end, right? I mean, there's just no way. All right, ready?
I don't think so. Yeah.
So you're just going to say it in 1, 2, 3. Say it, okay?
Okay.
It's 1, 2, 3, scissors. You didn't say it.
Well, I thought you said and it's. I thought you were giving me an example of what we're.
Oh, okay, then that's what I was doing. Okay, so we're gonna say 1, 2, 3, and then say the thing. Ready?
Okay, gotcha.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Rock.
Rock.
Dang. 1, 2, 3. Paper.
Scissors. Yes.
You totally stalled.
I didn't stall.
Fine.
Totally won that one.
I'm calling John August. I'm gonna invite him to your house.
Oh, my least favorite. You're a terrible person. Yee or Driving Miss Daisy.
Driving Miss Daisy.
I'll pick Driving Miss Daisy.
You bet your sweet patootie you will.
Oh, Yee or Red Belt. Totally Yee.
All right, here we go. Ready? 1. Come on.
This is just sad that it's devolved.
There's no other way to do it.
I know, you're right. Okay, ready. Go ahead.
1, 2, 3. Scissors.
Paper. Oh,
Thank you.
damn it. Are you serious?
I'm
I'm
totally serious.
I'm okay with it, even though I don't agree. But having just seen 12 Years a Slave,
Yeah.
I'm all in Chewie's favor right now because boy, is he good in that movie.
Well, let me just say, we have a friend of the show, Job, wrote me on Facebook after our Red Belt thing, and he is a fighter, and he particularly liked our review of that, and he is a really big guy, and so I encourage you to go with Red Belt happily. That's all I'm saying.
I said he's going to drive down and beat me up if I don't.
I'm not saying anything like he seems like a very gentle and peaceful giant, but he does live, only a state or two away from you. And so you're going to want to just take that into account.
Wow, I never thought I'd be getting physically threatened for my flick chart choices.
All right, what's next?
All right, Yee or Compulsion?
I'm going to go Compulsion. I'm going to go Compulsion easily for the courtroom monologue. It's very strong. Very strong. Much of restraint.
Yeah. What was that? I may agree with you because whatever that was. Orson Welles is awfully compelling in that courtroom scene.
He's no Ting-Ting.
And I will say, I love Yee. Don't get me wrong. Compulsion, though, was one of those historic discoveries that I never knew existed, and I really enjoy that film.
So Compulsion it is then.
There you go. Yee or The Parallax View. I'll totally go Yee on this one.
I will go The Parallax View.
Come on, give me some yang love.
But I feel like if I'm going to give on one, this is one I don't need to rock, paper, scissors. I'll give you this one.
Wow, there you go. Yee or The Red Shoes?
Oh, see, now this one I should have. This is a toss-up for me.
This is a bit of a toss-up for me, too. I mean, I love Yee. I really respect Red Shoes. I think I get more out of my personal connection with Yee, though.
I think Red Shoes is an example of the kind of film that I'm talking about that demonstrates not only the intention to take dramatic risks, both in the story and the visuals, but also shows great restraint. And it's not a 3-hour film. But I'm going to give you Yee for the reflections.
Okay. All right, there you go. Number 90 out of 124. Right between Compulsion and The Red Shoes. I'd like it to be higher.
Yeah.
But I'm okay that it's at least in the top 100.
For the next 10 weeks. I didn't say that out loud. It was my inside voice. I'll edit that out.
Well, you're a terrible person.
Andy, this is why we do this show. I love these episodes so much more. I love it. I learn so much more when we disagree.
I learn a lot too, but I always like it more when we agree. I don't feel like I have to fight the whole time. I'm just exhausted after these episodes.
Okay, next week.
Oh, by the way,
yeah,
there's no financial information really for this film. I have a little bit of domestic, how much it made, but
it was not much.
Yeah, it made just over $1 million, and I don't know how much it cost to make, so I don't really have any finances for this one.
All right.
But it is on our movie cost per minute breakdown.
All right.
All the same.
All right. Next week we're wrapping up our foreign film journey. This has been a really hard. I look forward to next week because I want to not only reflect on the terrific film we're going to see next week. Spoiler. But I want to reflect on this, just the act of doing a, quote, foreign film series. I'm looking forward to that, I think, maybe, as much as talking about the movie.
Yeah, I know that for anyone who looks at our 2014 list, we don't have a foreign language series next year, but this has been really exciting, and I love talking these foreign films and kind of exploring the way that films get made around the world.
Yeah. Good times. Well, what are we going to do?
Even if you don't like them.
Even if you don't. What are we doing next week? So people can catch up.
Yeah, next week we're going down to Brazil. We're going to do City of God, which is quite an amazing film. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yes.
And finish up this series with. And then in between, we're actually doing a film board.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. So on Sunday night we are recording, so but probably Monday morning you'll be able to catch this in the feed. We're doing
The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Nation of Smaug.
The second annual Tom Metz Memorial Hobbit Festival film board episode. Oh, he'll never hear that. I'm as it turns out, I will not be seeing this in seizure round. When I see it, because I talked to my daughter and I said, I want to go see this movie. You're ready to go? We're going to go do the glasses and the IMAX and everything. And she said, no, you go by yourself. She actually turned down a movie date with Dad because of 48 frames per second and 3D IMAX. She just said she didn't like it. So we're going to go regular old thing tomorrow afternoon. And so I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Yeah,
Sunday
I'm
night.
looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So we got some Smaug on Sunday, and then we've got some Brazil crime stuff going on next week.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
It's
fun times.
I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, you stink. It's not my fault he's picked two movies that look awfully lot like they're stealing from Duncan Jones movies.
I'm just saying he likes his stuff. He likes his Jones.
He's just saying, Duncan, look at me.
Look at me.
Pick me. Pick me. I want to play next time. Look what I could have done.
Pick me. That's good.
That's just it's something.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed the brilliant City of God and the Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor.
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
Movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.